Hi and welcome to Swedish Plantguys. In this video we will show you our most frequently used plants in 2023, and I'll also give you the reasons why we have been using these plants and why some of them are so popular. Let's go. So starting off with windowsill plants or smaller plants. The first one I want to show you is the Aglaonema commutatum silver bay, more commonly known as the Chinese evergreen. But this one is the silver bay variety. We use this plant a lot, and the reasons are quite simple. You have this beautifully variegated leaves, and it also works in almost any type of pot, any shape, almost any type of color as well. But you should know that if you use this type of Aglaonema, it actually gets pretty big as it grows. But you can buy it in a smaller version as well to keep on your windowsill, but know that after a while it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, a good alternative to the silver bay is actually this one. This is the variety called Maria. Now, the difference between the Maria and the silver bay is that the Maria can be placed almost anywhere in your home. The silver bay, since it's so heavily variegated, needs more light. Number two is the CC plant, the Zamioculcas zamiifolia. Now, this is a plant that we use a lot, and the reason for that is, number one, the dark green color. It actually works perfectly with the type of decorations you have in offices right now, and also in your home. And also, it is extremely easy to care for, and can be placed very, very dark. Now, it wants a lot of light, but you can place it almost anywhere in your home. Another good thing about this type of a plant is that you can actually place it in rectangular or longer pots like this, where you can place 2 or maybe 3 of them, and it's just beautiful. Number 3 is the zebra plant, also known as the Alocasia zebrina. Now, this is one of the most popular plants in 2023. And the reason it is quite obvious. It has this extremely nice looking stems. And it's gotten its name because of it, of course. It almost looks like the zebra patterns on a zebra. But it also has these really big, nice, dark green colored leaves as well. And one of the best things about this plant is the shape as well, because in 2023, one of the most popular shapes of pots have been globe-shaped or rounded shapes of pots. And this type of a plant actually works perfectly with that. But know that if you have this plant, it will get big over time. It can actually get 1.5 meter high as its biggest, and it will also take quite a lot of space. So it will not stay this small when it grows. Number 4 is the Epipremnum aureum, or more commonly known as the Pothos. Now, we have been working with plants for over 20 years, and this has always been one of the most popular and one of the most used plants in all of those years. And the reasons are simple. It is extremely simple to care for. It grows quite quickly, and you can place it almost anywhere in your home. So it is almost the perfect plant. So if you want to have a plant that has this hanging shape, the Pothos, well, you just cannot go wrong. There are a lot of different varieties of Pothos, but the normal one is the Epipremnum aureum, and know that if you place it somewhere where it gets a lot of light, it will be extremely variegated. But if you place it somewhere where it's darker, all of the leaves will start to turn green. It will lose the variegated color. So number 5 is the umbrella tree, or the Schefflera arboricola. This variety usually called Nora or Nora. And this is just a perfect small shrub-like plant that you can place on your windowsill. It will get bigger and it grows quite quickly. However, you can prune your Schefflera almost all year around. So you can keep it like this. As soon as it starts to get to be too big, just prune it down. Use what you prune off to create new plants, create cuttings from them, and then you will just have this small, perfect plant. Now, the extra advantage of this plant is actually that it loves sunlight. So it is one of the best plants to place where you get a lot of direct sunlight. Now I want to throw in an honorable mention here. One of the plants that didn't actually make the list, but it is a kind of a favorite here, and that is the Clusia rosea princess. This is quite big. You can actually get them quite small, so you can have them on your windowsill, but you can also have them on the floor because eventually they will get bigger and bigger. You can prune it to keep it on your windowsill. But the best thing about this plant is the lovely green leaves with that rounded shape. It's also perfect to have in a rounded pot to give that almost soothing feeling to the plant. It is easy to care for as well. You just need to consider that you give it quite a lot of indirect sunlight. So moving on to the bigger plants that you actually have to place on the floor because it will not fit on the windowsill. So first off is a personal favorite of mine, and that is the Strelitzia nicolai, also known as the giant white bird of paradise. And it looks like this. Now, when you buy this plant, you can buy it in 1, 2, 3, 4, or maybe even 5 different stems on it. And you can actually try and count that when you buy it. And the more stems it has, the more expensive it will be. But it will also get fuller and fuller if you have more stems in the same pot. I think this has 3 stems here in this one, and it's quite full. Now, I love this plant for a number of reasons. First reason is, of course, these big, beautiful leaves that only gets bigger and bigger. They can actually get quite big as it grows taller. And I also love the color of this plant because it is that perfect shade of green. This type of a plant also fits in almost any type of pot. So you can have it in a rounded pot, a square pot, a high pot or a low pot. It actually doesn't matter because it will just work. It's easy to care for as well, and you can place it a bit further into the room because it's not that dependent on a lot of light. Now, we use the nicolai most of the time, and not the regina, which is the normal bird of paradise. And the reason is that we have found that the nicolai is actually easier to care for when you keep it indoors and you have the same temperature all year round. If you place it somewhere where you get a little bit colder temperatures in wintertime, then regina is a better choice. But if you have the same temperature all year round, you should go with the nicolai. Now, I also want to mention that this is a flowering plant, but our experience is that here in the southern parts of Sweden at least, you will probably not get it to flower. It can happen, we have seen it, but it usually takes up to 8 to 10 years before it flowers the first time. And that's not even certain. So you buy this plant for the leaves and not the flower, at least here in Sweden. Now, number 2 is also a favorite of mine, and that is the Ficus elastica Abidjan, or also known as the Burgundy. And the Burgundy name is, of course, because of the color. It has this dark green color that has some form of a burgundy or almost a little bluish shade to it. That makes this quite exotic. And I know that in some countries this is quite hard to get a hold of. Here in Sweden it's actually quite easy. So I like this over the normal Robusta because of the color. Now the normal Robusta is a little bit better in most cases because it doesn't require that much light. The Burgundy actually wants a little bit more light than the Robusta. But easy to care for, can be placed almost anywhere, and it will get big over time. So think of the size you buy from the beginning, but know that it will get bigger. You can prune it, and when you prune it, it will actually start to branch out. So if you think that it's starting to get too leggy or you want it to be more bushy, start pruning it and you will get those branches to branch out. So number 3 is the Dracaena fragrans Cintho. Also known as the dragon tree, but this variety is called Cintho. And I love this plant because of the variegated colors on the leaves. And it's our experience that it doesn't lose the variegation. It stays like this for all of its life, which is also good because if you buy it like this, you want it to stay like that. It is extremely easy to care for. This is one of the strongest dragon plants, and the dragon plants are quite easy to care for generally, but this is one of the strongest varieties. So if you have the ability to buy the Cintho, we highly recommend this one. Now this is probably the plant that we have used the most in 2023 of all these plants. And the reason is quite simple, because it is that easy to care for, it can be placed almost anywhere, and you have the variegated nice color to it. It's so easy to place this anywhere, in the office or in your home. Number 4 is, again, the CC plant, but this time in the bigger floor plant like this one here. Now, this has been very popular in 2023, and the reasons are simple. The nice dark green color, extremely easy to care for, can be placed almost anywhere, and works in almost any type of a pot. And also it works together with almost any other type of plant. So if you want to place a group of plants, usually you will see a CC plant among that group because it just works. What you need to know when you buy a CC plant of this size is that it will get even bigger over time. So you have to have a placement where you have a lot of air around it, because it will start to get even bigger and take quite a lot of space. But know that if you think it's starting to get too big, you can always cut off the stems that are getting too big. When you do that, you cut them all the way down to the soil level, because if you cut them anywhere else, you will have a nasty scar there. It will not look that nice. So cut off the entire stem. Number 5 is the Fiddle Leaf Fig, or the Ficus lyrata. As you might know, it has gotten the name lyrata from the shape of the leaves. It actually looks like a violin. And this is just a plant that works almost everywhere. But when you place this somewhere, know that it will take up a presence in the room, because these big green leaves will be the first thing that someone looks at when they enter that room. It just has that huge presence. You can get it in as a bush where you have leaves all the way, or like this one here is actually on a stem as well. Now on the downside for the lyrata is that if you're not able to make it happy, which you usually can, but if it's starting to get sad and you lose a couple of these big leaves, you will have big holes, and those leaves will never be replaced. You might be able to get it to branch, but it's not that easy, and especially if it's not feeling well. So that is the downside to this. When it's happy, it looks perfect, but when it starts to get sad, it can look really, really bad. Now, of course, we have to have an honorable mention also in the bigger category here, and that is the Scindapsus pictus, or also known as the silver pothos. This is an amazing plant because it can be placed anywhere. This is one of the best plants to keep somewhere where you don't have a lot of light. It can sometimes even be better or be able to withstand lower light conditions than the CC plant. So this can be placed almost anywhere. And since it is a climbing plant, in this case it's placed on this wire here to create this narrow shape. That is also an advantage, because if you have a placement somewhere where you cannot have a Strelitzia that is going to take up a lot of space, this is a perfect tower version of a floor-placed plant. Now, we have used this quite a lot in 2023, but previous years we've actually used the philodendron scandens instead, which is of course the heart-leaf philodendron. Now, the reason that we have transitioned this year to using more of the Scindapsus pictus is because we have experienced that the philodendrons and also the monsteras have actually gotten some type of a mite here in the southern parts of Sweden, and they are everywhere. So when we put out a heart-leafed philodendron, it's just a matter of time before it gets attacked by that mite, and then we have to exchange it. So we have moved from this to the Scindapsus instead. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that we maybe could help you to make a choice for what type of a plant you want in your home. Now, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps our channel a lot. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Hit the bell as well so you get a notification every time we put up something new. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, where you can get sneak previews of upcoming videos and sometimes a little bit more. Now, until next time, hej då!